So commercial training, week 8. Here we go. Before we get into land development, one of the problems that does come up in commercial rentals is that the first and last month's rent does not cover the commissions, all right? And at the bottom, it says, not a problem with an honest landlord, all right? What'll happen, and just as this example is the lease commissions for a 2,000 square foot property at $9 per square foot equals $1,500 per month, all right? If you have 8% in year 1 and 4% for years 2 to 5 commissions, you can see what happens with the math, okay? So the commission amount that you should get, including HST, is $4,881.60, all right? I've done the math for you. I won't repeat everything. It's there for you. I know it's correct, all right? But your first and last months that you are going to receive for this is $3,000 plus HST. So it's going to be what, $3,390, all right? And that does not cover the commissions of $4,881.60. It's not a problem with an honest landlord. An honest landlord's going to make up the difference, all right? But there have been many, many times where the honest landlord, the unhonest landlord, the dishonest landlord says, oh yeah, sure, I'll pay it one day when I get around to it. And you know what? We never get it. And it's not worth your while to hire a lawyer to take the landlord to small claims court for the difference. So what can you do? What you can try to do, hopefully maybe there's a security deposit involved, which would up the amount of deposit that's given. You can try to tell to your tenant that your offer will have more weight if you offer to pay maybe the first month, second month, and last month's rent as an incentive for the landlord to accept their offer, that kind of thing. Some tenants who are smart will say, why would I ever do that? I only need to pay first and last month's rent. And sometimes, you guys, I'm going to warn you, sometimes you're going to get beat. Okay, you're going to get beat for the little bit of difference if it's a dishonest landlord. So I want you to be aware of that when you're calculating what the tenant should pay for first and last month's, or sorry, for a deposit. Try to get, if it's not going to cover your commissions, if you're not trusting everybody, then try to get first and second and last month's rent, or first month and second last and last month's rent, or make sure there's a security deposit involved or something like that. Typically, this is not a problem if you're dealing with a property management company, you're dealing with somebody's holding on to lots of different properties, that kind of thing. These ones only really happen when the landlord is a bit of a slime ball and he only has the one thing and he knows he can get away with it. And it doesn't happen all the time, but I want to bring it to your guys' attention that it does happen, okay? Any questions? 1 second. Oh, good morning, Katerina. So here we go. Land development. I just have to do this. Just give me 1 moment, please. I have to do that so I can see it. So land development, this is the first part of today's commercial lesson. Land development, the process for land development is governed by the Planning Act. After the Planning Act, the requirements are governed by a large number of governmental agents and public input. But basically the approval process for land development, and land development, just to give it a definition of land development, is one, you have a large, or not even large, a small property of land that you want to build houses on. You may have a very large subdivision that they want to build houses on. It could be one piece of land that needs to be split into 2, all right? So it could just be very, very small to very, very large. Basically, what we're going to cover today in land development covers all of that, all right? Basically, the same rules apply on whether you want to split up one piece of land into 2, or somebody owns 10 acres of lands and wants to put up 300 townhouses, or however many townhouses they can squeeze into 10 acres of land. So it doesn't matter. Now, each municipality has different rules, but eventually it comes under the Planning Act of Ontario. So each municipality might have little tweaks and little changes and all that kind of stuff. It's particularly municipalities have control of zoning, as we've talked about zoning a lot. And the municipality will want reports from all the different kind of professionals out there to make sure that the builder is going to adhere to the rules and regulations of not only the municipality and the zoning of the municipality, but to the Planning Act. To say that the process is complex, especially if you're getting into a large subdivision, is a huge understatement, okay? It takes a long time. So, important considerations, and we're going to go through each of these different individually: zoning, timing, supply and demand of the finished product, the costs involved, development, and paperwork. All right, paperwork, oh my goodness gracious, it's huge. So let's go through these. Zoning. So the picture on the right-hand side, the applications to permit a mixed-use residential commercial building. For those of you in Richmond Hill, you've probably seen this sign. 991 high-rise residential units and 182 townhouses. That's at the corner of Brookside and Yonge, just south of the Richmond Hill office on the southwest corner of Brookside and Yonge. It is unbelievable to me that they can actually fit 991 high-rise residentials and 182 townhouse uses and 8 single detached dwellings and have a public park and open space in that little corner. It's unbelievable. Can you imagine the traffic that's going to be at the corner of Brookside and Yonge if they add in another roughly 1,200 units and everybody has 2 people in each unit? And so all of a sudden you have 2,400 people more. It's unbelievable that they can get away with this, and they have not gotten away with it. But what is the present zoning? All right. They're trying to change the zoning to a mixed-use residential commercial building. All right. Can it be changed at all? Well, people can certainly make application to get it changed, no question at all. What is the length of time to change the zoning? You know what, for something like this to change the zoning, you're probably looking at, I would say, a year, maybe 18 months to get this all done. This is a long process. If you are dealing with a buyer that's looking at changing the zoning and putting in this type of let's call it high density units, it takes a long time, okay? The planning department of the municipality is the place to start. Before your buyer would even look at this, you would go to the municipality and go, hey, is this even possible, okay? By the way, we're gonna talk about this one a little bit more as we go through this and what people can do about this. Public controls on development. The next step is the posting of signs, just like the yellow sign that we saw there in the last slide. There's an opportunity for public input always. You can object, okay, to this, but can you object because you just don't want that many people there? No. But could you object because of increased traffic? Yes, okay. The social values have to be preserved, parkland and recreational space. And those kind of things would be set out in the plans that the public can view to see what's actually being put in there, okay? Does development increase or decrease existing values? And that's another one that is always taken into consideration. Affordable housing development. Is there a social value to having an affordable housing development? I'm sure the homeowners on Brookside Drive do not want 991 units put up that are all social housing, that are government-supported housing. They would have a huge fight on their hands to put that in. And because it's not in my backyard, the NIMBY process, not in my backyard, interestingly enough, is virtually not a valid reason to have it. They have to go after other reasons, not enough parkland, too much traffic, not enough controls for stoplights, ingress and egress into the unit, how's that going to happen and how's that going to impact traffic? Another one is if they put up a huge multi-story building, you can start to complain about, I used to have sunlight in the morning. Okay, the public can complain, I used to have sunlight in the morning on my house, and now I'm in shade for most of the day. All right. And so you do have to consider all of that, but there are public controls on development. The public definitely has an opportunity to, try to fight the development. Absolutely. There's a public process that must be gone through. Okay. Timing. Opportunity cost. Once again, the first day of these sessions, let's see, 8 weeks ago, one of the first things we talked about was opportunity cost, and opportunity cost comes into timing. All right. And sorry, somebody have a question there? Okay. Opportunity cost. So if a developer needs to spend $2 million for a piece of land, spend hundreds of thousands of dollars for application, and he's going to tie up all his money for a long time, it has to make sense to the developer that he could use all that money in some other fashion. We talked about opportunity cost a lot. The process can take forever, 18 months, okay? And then you have what's called the absorption rate. The absorption rate is the length of time to actually sell lots or build homes. And so the absorption rate is how many homes can be built, and then how long will it take for them to be sold, right? How fast can I get a deposit? So once again, the developer has the opportunity to pre-sell lots before the shovel hits the ground. That's great. And maybe he gets $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 deposits. How long is it going to take him to sell all of these kind of things? And then once the house is built, how long does it take to get the final payment from the seller? And all these considerations all of these points are taken into consideration before a buyer is even going to put an offer in. Now, the small guy who has one lot and divides into two, it's still land development, it's planning department of the municipality is still the place to start. The small guy is going to look at all the same things. Now I'm buying a lot for $800,000. I'm going to divide it into two. And now I have to do my applications for my building permits, and I have to get a shovel into the ground, and I have to get the sewer and the water and all that stuff in. How long is this going to take? And then I have to build the house, and then I have to be able to sell the house. Now it's pre-sold, it's a beautiful thing. He's got some kind of a deposit, but he's going to take the opportunity cost of what he could do with that money instead, spread it out over the amount of time that it takes to actually build the house and get the final payment. And is this worth it to do it? Okay, so the absorption rate is really an important consideration. Any questions so far? Supply and demand, the million-dollar question. For those of you who were on the town hall meeting yesterday, we had quite a discussion at the beginning about supply and demand. One of the biggest questions is for a developer, and even for the small guy, when I say developer, I mean small, medium, large developers, is it's really hard to predict what is going to happen in the future. So things pre-sold is a lovely thing for the small guy, but the big guy that is going to put in a development of, let's just say 100 homes, this is a long process. What is the market going to be like in 18 months from today? Oh my goodness, can I sell all these homes today? The market is booming, right? But then what happens? You get a COVID that comes in, a little virus that slows everything down, and now the houses are built, And now the buyer's lost his job, and oh dear, now we can't close. Oh dear. And so this is a problem for developers. What's going to happen in the future is the million-dollar question. So what are the present market conditions? What are the future market conditions? Boy, I wish we all had a crystal ball that viruses were coming, eh? I mean, nobody predicted this in a million years, I can tell you that. And now looking into the future, all right, let's face it, you guys, our crystal balls are cloudy at the moment, you know? Nobody's really going to know what's going to happen in September, October, November, December. It's a guess, and we hope it's all good, of course. We're all positive because we're salespeople, but our crystal balls are cloudy today. What are interest rates going to be like as time goes on? This is a huge, important consideration for builders, that today I can borrow money to build at, you know, let's just say for a builder, 3.5% or 4.5%. If he's a really good customer of a bank and a big guy. For a smaller guy, I can borrow money to build today at 5 or 5.5%. And so great, I'll buy the land. I'll go through the whole process for development, the building permits, the splitting of the land, the creation of the lots, the surveys, everything else. And now I'm ready to start to build, but interest rates have jumped 2.5%, and now I can't afford to build anymore. Uh-oh. So what are interest rates going to do? Immigration, another huge one. Canada right now has an immigration influx of, I think it's about 400,000 people a year, of which I think roughly 225,000 are coming to the GTA. But what are Canada's immigration, and they drive real estate, they really do. Along with lots of other factors, of course, but immigration certainly drives real estate. And what's the immigration total that Canada plans to have in 2 years from today? Huge thing. What's the economy doing? Booming along at all 8 cylinders, isn't it, in March? But what about today? I'd say the economy has, to put an understatement in, fallen flat on its face. What about unions? Electrical workers, carpenter workers, are they planning to go on strike? How long is their contract for in the unions? What's going on? And then, of course, what are the new building starts and permits issued already? Why should I buy this piece of land when there's another 400 townhouses and single-family detached homes being built in this community already? These are all huge things that builders, developers have to think about before putting an offer in on a piece of land that they plan to develop. All right, now, you know, the future market conditions basically takes all of this into consideration, and there are experts that figure this stuff out. There are economists that try to predict all this stuff into the future, for sure. The major banks all have economists that try to do this prediction. There are companies like PricewaterhouseCoopers, PwC, Ernst & Young that are huge companies that people hire. They're basically accounting firms that have their pulse on everything that's going on in the economy. And developers can hire these guys to try to make a prediction. These guys, you know, these accounting firms, Ernst & Young, E&Y, they're called, PwC for PricewaterhouseCoopers. You can hire professionals to do this work for you, and big builders hire professionals to do this stuff for them. Small builders, small developers, it's too expensive. They've just got to, you know, how's it going? Well, let's have a go at this and see what happens. But they will have some kind of pulse on the economy as well. So these are all really important considerations for development. Any questions? Getting off easy again. Costs. Well, we've got interest, opportunity costs we've talked about. Interest rates, initial purchase costs, building costs. How much does it cost to put the utilities in? Okay, this is a huge, huge cost. Townships today, municipalities today, download the infrastructure costs onto the developer. You can just imagine to extend a sewer system and a water system under the ground to feed a new development, how much that would cost. Frankly, I have no idea how much that would cost, but it's got to run into, you know, if you're a big developer into the millions and millions and millions of dollars, if you're a small developer, it's certainly in the tens of thousands of dollars. Infrastructure costs, water, sewer, hydro. What about broadband services, cable TV, you know, all that kind of stuff. We talked about absorption rates. What are the costs for permits and applications? Somebody told me, I think it was before Christmas, that just to do a rezoning application for a small lot in the city of Markham was upward of $25,000. Oh my goodness, these things are really expensive. Your administrative, marketing, and legal costs, okay? The marketing, let's just think about marketing for development. What do they do? Well, they often build a show home, right? Where I live, there's a development. There's 5 show homes with different models in them. It's huge, these costs. Administrative, the paperwork involved is unbelievable, you guys. It's unbelievable for a developer and the paperwork. He has an administrative staff and a lawyer working full time. The small developer has to do a lot of paperwork as well. Oh my goodness, it's a lot of stuff that you have to do. Development fees. Development fees somewhat are tied into infrastructure costs. And as you guys know, or at least some of you will know, when you are buying a new condo, there are development fees that are downloaded onto the buyer. Sometimes these development fees are capped at a certain amount. Sometimes they're not. But at the beginning of the day, when the builder is building the property for the infrastructure, they have to pay for those development costs. Now, eventually they recuperate those development costs. Most of the time they recuperate it in today's world. But those development costs and development fees have to be paid for to the municipality, and then they get their money back. Architectural drawings, huge, you know, to have these, because for a building permit to be issued for a house, you need drawings, you need engineering drawings, you need architectural drawings. You need urban site development plans. Where are the trees going, the lights, the mailboxes, color schemes. Interestingly enough, when you're looking at a new development, if you guys want to put a star beside this one, urban site development plans are generally available online. And so if your buyer is considering to buy in a new development, it would be a real bonus for them to be able to see the urban site development. Where we bought in Alliston, we bought a townhouse in Alliston, and we wanted to be sure there was no sidewalk in front of us. We don't want a sidewalk where you can't park your car on the second half on the boulevard part of your property. And so we found the urban site development plan to make sure that the property that we were purchasing did not have a sidewalk, as an example. You can actually even find out if you're going to have a tree planted on your property. From the urban site development plan, you can see what the whole streetscape will look like in the urban site development plan. And if you can't find it online, I can guarantee you that the municipality has it, and they will send you a link to see the urban site development plan. It's a really important part when people are buying freehold or townhouses. Okay, surveys, huge costs. And then what about the finishing, paving, sod, sidewalks, trees, all that kind of stuff? You know, it's even planned on a larger development what the lamp posts will look like to have street lighting. All that stuff is available for a buyer to preview, and it certainly has to be done by the developer for large and, depending on how small, pretty small developments as well. All this stuff has to be taken into account by the developer. So development, once again, big cost for the builder. Access roads, water and sewer, hydro, gas, fiber optics, engineering, soil analysis. You know, this is a huge thing when it comes to development. Can the soil actually sustain or support all these houses? I mean, houses are heavy. Think about it. Houses are heavy. It takes a little bit of support underneath the ground to build houses. An interesting little side note from that is New York is Manhattan in New York. One of the reasons why New York and Manhattan has so many tall skyscrapers and has so many buildings packed into the very south end of the island, of Manhattan Island, one of the reasons that they're all there, certainly one of them is shipping, but one of the main reasons is why they are there is that it is on a solid granite foundation. The world underneath the soil can support all those heavy buildings. So soil analysis is a big part of it. Environmental, endangered species. There have been developments that have been stopped because of an endangered species, no question about it. All over the GTA, places have been stopped, the Greenbelt, all that kind of stuff. Grading. Grading is a huge consideration. When you build a development, where's the water going when it rains? Where's the water going when the snow melts? You know, that kind of thing is a big thing. And surveys are hugely expensive. Just 1 second here, let's have a look. So these are all considerations that you really have to think about here, okay? This is what developers think of. Paperwork. So on the developer's side, we've talked about a lot of these, the applications, the permits, the government stuff, financing. Can you imagine just like what Katerina was just talking about? Can you imagine what the financing paperwork must look like? Oh my goodness gracious, it's just got to be unbelievable. The application process just must be wild at a bank. I just can't imagine how much paperwork would be involved. The legal stuff that has to be completed, it just goes on and on and on. And if you recall from a few slides ago, we had the administrative costs, and it's huge. For a big development, it's huge. For a small developer, just a total pain in the you-know-what of the hoops that he has to jump through for all the paperwork to make this work, okay? Forms. The forms you would use to put in an offer. You would put Form 100 if the property is zoned as any type of residential or rural designation. Totally normal Form 100, the same one that you use to put in an offer on a house. You would use Form 500 if the property is zoned as any type of commercial, industrial, manufacturing, or farmland. That's the commercial, the general form, all right? And HST. HST, always be careful with HST. Is it included in, not included in? Okay, and in particular, I point out farmland, all right? Farmland is something that people buy to develop, all right? Farmland can have HST on it or not HST on it. It depends what the farmer has used it for. Let me give you an example. Farmland, let's just say it's 100 acres, just for fun, big piece of property. And the farmer lets the next door neighbor put his cattle on the farmland that's being purchased. And that cattle occupies 50%, 50 acres of land, half of the time of a year, okay? They allow it to graze. The farmer collects money from the other farmer who is putting their cattle on it. And we're just going to make it easy here and say the farmer reports the income, so he collects HST from the other farmer, all right? That property is now going to be subject to HST, but the property that's only going to be subject to is 50% of the land size for 50% of the time. And so in general then, just to make the math really easy, that property is going to be a 25% HST. You guys have to be really, really, really careful with HST, which is why it's always recommended that your buyer become an HST registrant and the seller is an HST registrant, because as we've talked about many, many times, In most situations, then it flows through. All right. So be careful with HST always. All right. Municipal controls on development in addition to zoning. I'm sure lots of you have driven around a new development. I think most of you, you're all real estate agents, so hopefully you've driven around a lot. And you drive into a new development and there's a big sign before you drive into the new development that says, this road is not maintained by the municipality. And it's usually at the beginning when the development is brand new. And I took this slide, I took this screenshot right out of Geo Warehouse. And I think if I remember right, this was in Barrie. I can't remember where I got it from. But you can see here on Parkinson Crescent, right along here, that the road going to Fitzgerald, there's no line going across. All right. Look what happens on the other side of Parkinson Crescent, where the municipality has not given that permission yet to open the road. Look at that. All right, you can check this out on Geo Warehouse yourself if it's in a new development. All right, it doesn't mean that the people can't come in and get over here to their houses or whatever they're doing here, whatever's going on. All right. But it does mean that the road is not being assumed by the municipality. Why not? And the reason probably is there's still some money owed to the municipality. Until the municipality gets that money, the municipality is not assuming the road. And so they have controls on development. Believe me, they have huge controls on development, okay? And they will stop, the homeowner of 124 here, well, all these haven't even all been numbered yet, but 124 here, whoever's that, drives into his house and it hasn't been done. Well, who's going to do the snow plowing this winter? Hopefully everything is taken care of before anything happens in that neighborhood. This is written by Project Metric Solutions, are the people who've done this drawing. So you can check this stuff out yourself. Everybody who I'm talking to should certainly know how to get to Geo Warehouse. And this kind of control, you can see this if you're looking at a new development, okay? The developer has to be able to overcome this. So here we go for really small. The buyer looking for land to build upon for one building. How are you going to do the valuation for this? How are you going to get it? We get these questions as managers all the time. How much is the land worth? Well, it's really tough, all right? You can find similar pieces of land. My goodness, it's tough to do. Similar sizes, similar pieces, similar locations. You may have to go way back in time and adjust for time. How can you adjust for time? You can adjust for time by looking at Market Watch and do the calculations through Market Watch. Maybe you have to adjust for size. It's really tough in the GTA to find similar pieces of land, you guys. I tell you right now, it's really difficult to do. However, what you can do is you can find a piece of land of the same size that has a building on it. You can estimate the cost of construction, estimate the cost of bringing everything into the property, and together the cost of the construction, utility costs, and lands. And once the project is complete, can the builder sell the property for a profit? It's as simple as that. So now you have a residential lot for sale in Richmond Hill. Okay, the lot sells for $1 million, let's just say, for fun. Okay, the builder is going to look at that and say, well, how much is it going to cost to bring the sewer, water, hydro, fiber optics, etc., into the property? I have a building cost of $250. Geez, that's another $1 million, let's say. So now I've got $2 million invested into this property. Can I sell this property for a profit? Can I sell it for $250,000? I'm sorry, $2,050,000 so that I make $50,000. Can I sell it for $2,100,000 so I make $100,000? Can I sell it for $2,250,000 so I make $250,000? This is the kind of thing that a developer will look at very closely. It is much easier to estimate it for one building, obviously for one lot. It's pretty easy to figure this out because you can go to the municipality and ask how much sewer or water will be. You can go to hydro and say, how much will it be to feed the hydro line into this house? You can go to Bell Canada or Rogers and say, can I get fiber optics into this house for internet, or can I get it for cable TV, you know, that kind of thing. And so builders can figure this out relatively simply for one building. For two buildings, okay? Two or more. Now you have to have some very long conditions along the way, because now you have to have the zoning application to split the land, okay? That's a whole different story, okay, than it is for the one builder. There are sellers that want assurances that the builder's intent is real and that they are committed to buy the property and that they're committed to going through all the steps that are required from the municipality, okay? This often involves a dollar amount that is non-refundable to the buyer, all right? The builder knows that they can do it, okay? I'm sorry. The seller knows that the builder can do the development. They've gone far enough down the line with the municipality that the municipality has said, yes, under certain conditions, this development will go forward. Certain conditions, including certain costs, that this development can go forward. The developer or the builder has also gone to the municipality and found out that the development can go forward. All right, they've done enough homework at this point. When an offer is put together, guess what? To keep the developer honest, the seller is going to want some non-refundable money as time goes on. So you now have your building permit. Congratulations, I want another deposit of $500,000. All right. When the foundation goes into the ground, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so these can be very, very complex deals for you guys to put together. I would highly recommend that if you do ever run into one of these, we need to find an agent to help you, walk you through this on how to put this stuff together. Okay, these can be really, really complicated, but only for, you know, for your guys more so, you know, you've got one lot, you need to split it into two, basically the same kind of thing. And as Katarina was kind enough to point out earlier, you better, when the builder goes to the bank and is going to split the lot, and as Paula pointed out, maybe rip down the building even, you better be right up front with the bank on your intentions, or else you're going to be caught along the way. Okay, the bank has checks and balances in that they are not going to lose their security, which is the land and the building. You know, they know how to figure this stuff out. And the developer better know and be honest with the bank if they're getting a mortgage on how to do all this. So once again, at the bottom, a buyer solicitor clause is a must. And as I've been trying to teach you guys, a zoning clause and a buyer solicitor's clause, and in this case, a building permit clause, all that kind of stuff needs to be included in there. And once again, conditions can take forever. One of the things that I have seen for this is that deposits are being held by buyers or sellers' lawyers, not the real estate company. And so that's allowed. And they work out a schedule of deposits and all that good stuff. And the lawyers often step in to take over in that regard. Okay. Any questions? All right. So now it all falls apart. The buyer has bought it. Oh my goodness. Everything looked really, really good. Somebody, back to that big yellow sign at the corner of Brookside and Yonge, somebody says along the way, oh, I'm going to fight this to the bitter end. And eventually the buyer, the developer, the builder ends up in what's called the LPAT, the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal. Nothing else is working anymore. Too many roadblocks are up. The developer wants to keep going. And guess what? There's a last resort to fight for the development on the builder side, but there's also a last resort. This also happens on the public side. Everything has been approved by the municipality. The public is still pissed off about the whole thing. They'll fight it right to the very end, and that very end step is the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal. That the appeal means that you're appealing the decision either on the builder side or on the public side. They will appeal. And I can guarantee you, well, I shouldn't say guarantee, but I'm 99% sure that way back to that development at Brookside and Yonge, that eventually it's going to end up at the LPAT. You know, the residential people who own $2.5 million homes on Brookside Drive have the money to fight this. They'll hire lawyers to fight this, and I know they are fighting it. And eventually it'll end up at the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal. If the municipality even gives the approval. I just somehow can't see it because of the traffic considerations, how one stoplight and single lane traffic in Yonge Street can absorb all that traffic. It just seems unbelievable to me, but stranger things have happened. But it'll end up in the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal if all else fails. Okay, so that is the land development portion of this. Does anybody have any questions? Getting off easy. Next, hotels, motels, and lodges. You will be involved in hotels, motels, and lodges without question. I know that in Century 21 Heritage Group, in the time that I've been there, there's been 3 or 4 of these have been sold. And so, you know, it's not uncommon. It does happen. And so don't put yourself out and think that this will never happen. So what do sellers want? Sellers, of course, want maximum return on their investment. Everybody does, right? They want a low cap rate. Low cap rate equals a high value. Sellers in hotels, motels, and lodges, it's really easy to hide cash, all right? So keep that in mind. Sellers will also know of changes to the area, which comes into a very important question is if a seller knows something that is going down in the area is going to go down for some reason. You know, maybe a major highway is going to go through and access is going to be cut off, or, you know, there'd be all sorts of things. Is a seller required to say what's going on in the area or not? Is it a latent defect or a patent defect of knowing to changes for the area? Buyers want and must have the net operating income. They will really check the quality of fixtures and chattels very, very carefully. They will check the area influences, and often they will want, in a smaller unit, they will want the owner to stay and work. In the larger hotels, motels, and lodges, they're going to want some kind of pre-employment guarantee. Can't be totally guaranteed, but that everybody's going to stay there and work. They want the manager to stay, and they want the back office to stay, that kind of thing. So there has to be some kind of writing, and it's left up to the lawyers to figure this out, that the employees and the owners are going to stay and work, okay? Often that deals with interviews of the employees. The buyer wants location, location, location. Well, every buyer wants location, 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 so nothing different than the rest of the real estate world. Near an airport, that's a big one. Close to offices. Look at the hotels that have sprung up along the 404 in Markham, where all the offices are. Close to public transportation, a huge consideration. Major arteries, you know, what's the highway situation? Can people get here easily? And of course, attractions, okay? Look at all the places that have popped up, the hotels that have popped up around Canada's Wonderland. And I don't really want to call a big hospital an attraction. I don't mean to say that way, but it's also a huge influence on hotels around major hospitals. They're going to look at the chattels and fixtures very carefully. You know, how old are the beds? You know, I don't want a client coming here once and having an uncomfortable bed and never coming back again. What about linens and pillows? How about the carpets and flooring conditions, the welcome area, the lobby, amenities? These are all considerations for hotels, motels, and lodges that people will look at very, very carefully when they are buying. Another really important thing, buyers will look at cash flow closely. So looking at this chart here, the statistics from 2014 to 2017, you can see summertime in Canada, guess what, have the highest occupancy rates. No surprise. It's when tourists are on the go. God only knows what it's going to look like this summer for hotels, but that's a different story altogether. The occupancy rates in December really kind of stink, right? So when do buyers want to buy? Buyers want to buy in April and May, maybe June, all right? Why? Because if they close the deal in May, let's say, they're going to hit the high peak cash flow, all right? It's wonderful for them. But do sellers want to sell in May and June? No, because they want to get the highest cash flow. Sellers want to sell their property in December when it's at the lowest. Buyers want to buy here. Sellers maybe are happy to sell in September or October, but does the buyer want to buy when he knows his cash flow is going down for the next 4 or 5 months, right? Not until back in February and this stuff going to come up. And do I want to hold on to millions of dollars worth of my motel or hotel when the cash flow is going down? This becomes a very, very large part of the negotiations between the buyer and the seller of a hotel, motel, or lodge. All right, keep that in mind. All right, so a buyer may put in an offer for $1 million here. The seller really doesn't like the low offer for $1 million here, but simply says to the buyer, I'm happy with your $1 million offer, but I will close in September instead of close in May. And so maybe the buyer then says, well, you know, I really do want to close in June, so I'll give you $1.1 million. Now the seller says, well, that's pretty good. Why don't we do this in August instead? And then the buyer says, well, no, I really do want that peak period. I'll give you 1.2. And the seller says, okay. That was a very simplified example of the negotiations that can happen when it comes to a lodge or a hotel or a motel. The timing is everything, okay? Location, 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 location. Look at the differences here. I should update this slide because I've had it for a few years now, but it's basically going to be the same. The occupancy percentage. Look at these down here on where things are happening in terms of percentage. Downtown Toronto had an average of 83%. The GTA East had 70%. All right. Look at the difference of hotel costs, of the room rate costs. Downtown Toronto, the average daily rate, wow, $214 a night. At the airport, $121. All right. Boy, net operating income, my goodness gracious. Revenue per available room, a huge important statistic for people who are considering to buy. All right. Buyers are going to have these statistics, you guys. You should be helping them get these statistics, of course. But then the buyer decides, right? We've talked a lot about the buyer decides. You don't decide for the buyer. The buyer decides. And you can imagine the net operating income for a hotel in downtown Toronto, you would imagine would be really good at that room rate, right? But really, is it just by looking at it? Is the net operating income in downtown Toronto as good as a hotel and the net operating income in the GTA East? Just looking at the room rate isn't good enough. You can bet that the taxes for the Sheraton Hotel at the corner of, I think it's Richmond and University, could you imagine what those taxes are that they have to pay to the city of Toronto compared to the taxes at, in Oshawa for a hotel? It would be huge. Water and sewer into the downtown Toronto would be much more expensive than water and sewer in GTA East. That kind of thing. So these are good guidelines, but you can see how a buyer would be interested in these kind of statistics, but it's all about net operating income. What I couldn't find for a slide for you guys is that for a hotel in downtown Toronto, back to the previous slide where the occupancy is, it would be really good to see how much money they got here in July and how much money they got here in December. Now a buyer is going to be able to decide how much money to offer because I know my cash flow is going to be this much here, or how much am I going to offer to close in October because I know my cash flow for the first year is going to be really crappy here. And you can get those statistics from the hotel themselves. I was unable to find those statistics online. I guess hotels are keeping them kind of private in their own financial statements, but you can get those statistics, okay? Really important statistics. Any questions so far? Got a quiet group. Other considerations. The restaurant, what's the story in the restaurant? Is it licensed? Restaurants and licensed establishments and hotels make a killing. I was in a conference last fall, and I like to buy a bottle of wine at the liquor store that costs $10.95. Yes, I'm cheap. Okay, nice Australian wine for $10.95. I was at the Marriott at Toronto Airport, and they had the same bottle of wine on their menu that I buy for $10.95 at the liquor store. They had the exact same bottle of wine on their menu at the Marriott for $46. No markup there, right, guys? Unbelievable. Huge, huge dollars. Is there entertainment at night? Is there a lounge where there's a singer or a piano player? What about the employees? How much are their paychecks? And of course, the buyer's skill level has to be something, of course. And of course, there's vendor take-back mortgages. Certainly in the motel and hotel lodges, especially if you're headed up north a little bit and buying a lodge on a lake in the Muskokas, that kind of thing, vendor take-back mortgages are very, very common, all right? And the reason for that is that they tend to ask too much money. They've taken a lot of cash in. And as I've talked to you guys before in previous lessons, when somebody's asking too much money and they're saying that there's a lot of cash involved, will the seller hold the mortgage and put their money where the mouth is, that there is enough cash coming in to pay the mortgage, okay? So don't forget about vendor take-back mortgages when it comes time to hotels, okay? I picked this picture because it's such a funny motel picture. It's got the Indian motif here. It's got the tacky bar here. It's got a moose on the wall over here. Who knows what kind of clientele they're really going for here, but it's quite something. Funny kind of picture there. Oh, sorry. So that is the hotel and motel and lodges considerations. Any questions? Okay, so a quick review. I've put this into every third or fourth slide for you guys. Net operating income, boy oh boy, that's a big thing. What's the cap rate? Another big consideration. What is the return on the investment? Another big consideration. HST, capital gains, depreciation, recapture tax, and confidentiality agreements. Do you guys need to be experts in all these things? The answer is no. You do not need to be experts in all these things. Out of them all, you should probably have a really firm understanding of HST. All right, make sure you know what HST is, input tax credits, how it can flow through. There's something called a buyer consideration a buyer, I forget, but there's all sorts of stuff in HST that you should know. The rest of it, you should be able to talk intelligently to your buyer or your seller about these different aspects. Do you need to direct them and do the math for them? No, that is the accountant's or lawyer's job. But should you be able to talk to them and have a basic knowledge of what these things are? And the answer is absolutely yes, when you are a commercial real estate agent. Homework, easy homework today, you guys. Please email me any questions you may have in regards to commercial real estate. I have found in the past that some people are shy about asking questions when there's a lot of other people around. And you know, they sometimes think that they're being silly or it's a stupid question. There are no stupid questions. I have to tell you, there are no stupid questions, but I certainly understand some people have a real reticence and don't want to ask in front of other people. So what I ask you to do, please email me any commercial real estate question that you may have, all right? I'm more than happy to answer it next week to everybody. I will not reveal where the question came from. I promise I will not reveal where the question has come from. So please email me any questions that you have. If you could email them to me. I know some people love to email me around midnight on Thursday night before Friday's session. It's just a little bit too long. I don't have enough time to put it together. So if you can get these to me by Wednesday so I can put it together Thursday for Friday, it would be greatly appreciated, please. And don't be shy. I promise I will not reveal where the questions have come from. All right, guys, get those questions. If you're too shy, ask me those questions, give it a lot of thought, send it to me by next Wednesday, and hopefully we'll see you all next Friday. And thank you all for coming. I hope everybody stays safe. Have a great day and a great week.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome, everybody.